Hey guys, welcome to Any Last Words. I'm your host, as always, Joe. If you're new here, welcome. Please make sure you hit that like, follow, subscribe, and share button. If you're not new, welcome back, suckers. My guest tonight is Craig Hurd-McKenney.
Yeah.
It's an interesting hyphen. I like it, but it's interesting. But I always screw up people's names, so I always have to ask.
It's really, really long, which is why I just dropped HM in.
Oh my gosh. So how are you doing today in this time that we're in?
I'm good. Some days are better than others. Today has been a good day.
Okay, good. We want good days. We want every day to be a good day. Especially anymore. Oh my gosh. It's almost the end of the year. Can you believe it? Oh.
I can't. The time has flown. And I actually, I couldn't wait for Halloween, and then we didn't have a Halloween. But for me, like I took it upon myself. I spent the whole month putting the house together inside like Halloween decorations. So so that has been good. But now I'm like, when is Halloween coming back again?
I know, right? Oh, and we have our last Friday the 13th of 2020 this week.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I should like smudge my house and then go smudge the yard and up and down the block and maybe the rest of town or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, real quick. Hey Sean and hey Avery, thanks for joining, guys. So we're here to talk about some projects you got going on.
Yes.
So are you still in the funding for this one or no?
So funding for the latest book ended at September 30th, I believe it was, and so our third book was successfully funded. This one we did 2 years ago. Last year we did book 2, and then we're doing a special Christmas annual that'll be out next year. That features spooky Christmas stories in the great Victorian tradition of telling ghost stories at Christmas time. So for those that don't know, the series is called Some Strange Disturbances, and it is set in Victorian England. So 1895, against the backdrop of the Oscar Wilde trial. And the three main characters are pulled together in a suspected possession story, and then they find out that there's way more trouble afoot than what they thought. So we're taking sort of contemporary social issues and looking at them through Victorian horror, queer horror, and it's been a lot of fun. The latest book that we just funded, the Christmas annual, I'm bringing on a bunch of different artists. So we usually have Gervasio and Carlos Ion as the art team, and they're going to get a little break for the Christmas annual. And so we're bringing in a bunch of folks who might be familiar to anybody that is like in horror comics, knowledgeable about comics. So Peter Gross and Vince Locke, who have worked on The Unwritten for DC Vertigo. They just finished the Dollhouse Family for the Black Label Joe Hill horror imprint for DC Comics. They're going to be drawing the Frame story, which is my characters telling the stories to each other. And then the contributors will be creating the stories that are being told to each other. So I wrote a list because there are so many people that I didn't want to miss anybody. We've got Melissa Jones, Kenny Thomas, Lauren Franklin, Cameron White, G. Romero Johnson, and Michael W. Conrad. And Michael, it was just announced a couple of weeks ago, he's going to be co-writing Immortal Wonder Woman for DC in January and February. So it's a really great team, super diverse team. We're going to get a lot of different perspectives on horror and people telling really spooky stories. So that'll be out next year, and that's the one that we just finished up.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, congratulations to you, and congratulations to him as well for getting that project for next year.
Yeah, he's great. Like I'm telling you, like if you saw any of the like preview artwork that he posted on Instagram, the story is gonna it's gonna blow your mind. He is a super creative person. He has a graphic novel that he did for Comixology. It's called Tremor Dose, and it involves like a lot of what Michael deals in is like institutional horror. So the ways in which organizations kind of influence us, but specifically medical organizations. So yeah, and I'm sure folks can think about all kinds of body horror that stems from medical
Oh
procedures,
yeah.
but his story is gonna like really, it's gonna really scare the crap out of you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. So are all of your I get the graphic novels, are they all horror based or do you have like a variety in there?
I started off in sort of slice of life stories, and then like after the 2016 election, I really found myself kind of sinking into like just fear. Like I think fear is legit. We have so much fear going on right now anyway. But I
Yeah.
started writing kind of to help me with that fear, as sort of like therapy. And it just so happens that um, horror was the thing that came out of it. And I've always been a huge fan. Like I'm a kiddo of the '80s, so I grew up like going to slumber parties, and we rent from the local video store and watch horror movies at the slumber party. So horror is something that I've always been drawn to. And then yeah, and I had kind of drifted away from it. But
Mhm.
then that 2016 was the year that I really dove back in, and it kind of manifested in um, work for me. But also, I just kind of feel like there's a horror renaissance happening right now. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So like just a lot of like diverse people coming in. There's a lot more black and brown folks making horror movies. There's a lot more queer people making horror movies. And I love that. I love that it's kind of opening up the types of stories that we see in horror. And I think that can only make horror more interesting and better.
Oh yeah, because it makes it real when you're having real everyday people rather than, the blonde hair, blue eyed, ditzy blonde that, oh my God, I tripped on a rock. Oh, I'm gonna die now.
Yeah.
Oh no. That kind of shit.
Yeah. And that the black person is not that the one black person is not the first person in line.
Right. And it's like, oh, we all know what's gonna happen to this guy. Okay, well, we already know this is
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
So
One of the things that I really loved, Lovecraft Country with Journey Smollett, as Letty. Amazing series, and show run by Misha Green, who is doing big things. So yeah, I think in times of deep social unrest, like historically, we can go back and we can see this. Like there always seems to be like a genre. Horror tends to like have a kickoff point in those times of great social upheaval, and I think for me, just personally, that was where my brain went. And for me, it's not necessarily about presenting stories, because the characters in Some Strange Disturbances are a diverse, like it's a diverse trio. We've got a Black American singer, we have a gay American psychic, and we have another character, which I can't say too much about because it's a spoiler for the first book. But she too, it has a has an element to her character. And um, I think you want to present characters that struggle, and it's important to not just make it all horror, all terror, all awful, because that's not really our experience. You said earlier, right? It better reflects our life. Sorry, my dog is joining us. um,
oh, it's okay. I always have to kick mine out because she wants to stay.
um, but so it's important to like have that foundation, that like lives, we do have those moments of joy and fun and love and community, but that there are still things that are happening that can be horrific. So I always find myself trying to balance those two things of not having it teeter over into the category of stereotypical stuff where, sorry, we're all tangled in the cord now.
It's okay. Oh, it's a cute baby.
Yeah, she's a lovey. So not having it tip over into stereotype where like you fall into those areas where like it can tend to be victimizing, I guess. You present characters as victims rather than real strong characters. So I think that's something that I'm always thinking about.
Okay. What would you say inspired you to write? I mean, was writing something that you originally wanted to do, or did something, like change your mind and go, "Hey, I think I kind of like this."
I think it's something that I've always done. Like I grew up on the first like years before like I went to school, we lived on a farm and we were kind of outside of the Dallas area. And I remember my mom would drive us into the city like probably once a month to pick up books at the library. So,
Wow.
so books, stories, like those were things that always resonated and took us out of like our very limited experience. Um, and once we moved back to a suburb of the city for school, I remember just like there would be a TV commercial or a movie would come on, and I would literally rewrite it out loud to my parents
Oh,
and my brother.
wow.
And that was just something and they would always be like, oh my God, that's, and of course they're your family, so take this with a grain of salt, but they would always say, oh, that actually would work better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's just something that I've always had in my head. I really like that stories provide an outlet for people who may not necessarily have access to a lot of stuff or who may only have a very limited scope of what's presented. Like we were talking about earlier, the Black character is the first character to die, or all the blonde women
Yeah.
are presented as idiots. And so that can be very limiting if that's what you see for yourself. If you look like that person, um, that can be isolating. It can be limiting. So I think for me, it's just about like sharing that human experience and trying to present something that helps people um, see themselves in content where they may not always see themselves. Because I know that was a huge thing for me. Like when I was growing up, um, the gay character was always like the serial killer, or the gay bashing victim or the comedic like relief. And so those three things I always just grew up thinking, I don't really feel like any of those things. I'm not a serial killer. So it's been an interesting sort of way that I process that. So yeah, I just feel like storytelling has always been something that has had a huge place in my heart, and um, it's been going well.
Well, I said earlier, before we went on, I kind of, creeped on your resume a little bit there, and you used to write for MTV, and you've done a lot of other stuff as well. Like you've been doing this a while, and it has obviously been working out for you.
Yeah, and I think one of the nice things is that I've had the opportunity to write in a lot of different genres. The MTV stuff was a lot of it was review based, but as we were kind of talking about in the pre-show, I also got the opportunity to do a lot of interviews, which I was super grateful for that opportunity. I love talking to people, and I love hearing other people's stories. So to be able to take that and to fashion that into a write up, yeah, it's a very specific skill set. But to me, like helping other people see different ways of being or other people's stories and really finding something that you can take out of that is hugely important. As part of like the pandemic, even I've been doing some Instagram live chats that I call table neighbors. And I'm getting back in touch with people that I sat next to at comic conventions, since we don't have comic
Oh,
conventions right now. And so, uh, it's an hour chat about how did you get started? Like, what are you working on now? How are you managing pandemic life? And those chats have been super, super fun.
that's awesome. I love that. Because we're like, like we're all trying to figure out ways to get through this, at least together, some way or another. And thank God finally for technology.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like so many Zoom chats with family just to stay connected because we're very close to our nieces and nephews, and like, it's really important to stay in touch with them right now. And, you know, family is very important, and I miss them terribly. So we got to be creative. We can't just say, oh well, it's too hard, or there's no way we can get together, because we can. And I hope that in those times that, again, it's like bringing at least some comfort to the kids, and to the people that are listening to Table Neighbors. Hopefully, like, they're finding value in it, and feeling good and positive. And I think we just need to be honest about our fears, and that's why I love horror, because we can be honest about it. We can sort of have that shared experience of fear and terror around characters and stories, and it's so important right now. But that's why I'm glad I'm here talking with you about like our shared love of horror.
Absolutely. It was horror your first like your first story that you ever did, or was it something else?
First
Like your
story I
first
did,
good big story.
yeah, I think no, it was, well, sort of like a fantasy horror mix, because the first big book that I did, it's a book called The Brontes Infernal Angria, and it's about the Bronte siblings. So they did Gothic Victorian novels that involved like mad women locked in the attic, and poisonings, and uh, like masquerade costumes to avoid being detected. So like, as kids, like they had a lot of family tragedy. Many members of their family died, and the three surviving sisters and the brother, as children, created this fictional world, and they would write little, what essentially we would think of today as like mini comics. They're about this big,
Mhm.
and they would write in the tiniest handwriting, and they would write across the page like we normally do, and then they would write angled, and then they would write across the other way, because paper was something they didn't have a lot of. So there are only a couple of these like artifacts left. So that story, for me, it was about that sort of shared family trauma and what you do with it. And again, for me, early on when I was writing, I kept thinking, this is going to be the thing. Like, this will propel me into some career of fame or whatever. And that's not really what I'm doing anymore. Like, so it was this idea of the obsession of writing and telling stories, and what that can do positively or negatively. And so it's about obsession, and there are some like slight horror elements to it. So in my story, the world is basically real, and they find a doorway, secret doorway to it in their house, and they get involved in some shenanigans in that other world that doesn't work out for them very well.
Oh wow. I
Yeah.
like the way that sounds, sir.
Yeah. And the artist on that is Rick Geary. He has a book that fans of horror are probably super into. He does like the 20th Century Murder series, where he takes real crimes and does graphic novels about them. So if you're into like true crime at all, he did
Oh yeah.
some that are set in 19th century, and some that are set in 20th century. But those
Ooh.
books are amazing. They're put out by NBM Publishing, and they're great. So everybody should check those out. Rick is a gentleman and a scholar, and just a journeyman artist who's been doing this a long time. He worked on oh gosh, what all has he worked on? He worked on National Lampoon, and has done his own books for many years now. But he's great, and check those out for sure if you're into the true crime horror stuff.
Oh, I am absolutely. I don't know. I have this, yeah, like we were talking before, like, how I'm that person where I'll go to a bar by myself and sit in the corner and be the creeper, like watching just people do their thing.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I am a creeper for true crime as well. So
Yeah,
I would
and
absolutely love that book.
yeah, oh my gosh, and there are probably like 15 of them. Like they're so good. I know there's one about Lizzie Borden. There's
Ooh.
another one about the jazz axe
Oh, the
murderer in New Orleans.
Axeman.
Yep. He's
Yeah,
got
the
one of those.
Axeman in New Orleans or something like
Yep,
that. Yeah.
yep.
Ooh, my. I think I got a new Christmas wish list of
Yeah,
books.
but shout out to Rick because he's amazing and like does the same consistent level of work and has for 40 years now, 50 years now, and is just such a great guy.
That's so cool. I definitely for sure have to check that out. And just to let you guys know who are watching, if you want to check out some of Craig's work as well, the website that he has, wait, this way, posted in his box, there's also a direct link in the comments that you can just click on after the show. And you can go to directly to his page and check out all of his work and order some of his shit. Sorry, I have a sailor mouth. I
No,
grew
it's
up in
okay.
San Francisco.
I have a naughty mouth too, and I'm reining it in for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have told you. You're grown. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life.
Oh,
You can
okay.
do what you want. Normally, I have a cigar or a cigarette or something that
Oh, sweet.
I just do whatever. I'm sorry. I should have told you. You could say whatever the hell you want.
I feel more free now. That's good. Good to
I'm
know.
so sorry. Oh my gosh. So, um, if you could write any book, any genre, any kind of story, what would you write? Like like if it was going to be your last book ever, what would you write?
Hmm.
Was that a complicated question? Did I put too much in there? Too much
No,
in the
it's not.
salad bowl?
No. It's just there's so much that I want to do that it, it, that's hard to say because I feel like whatever I have wanted to do, I've done. So I'm trying to parse out the like regret part of that question because it all not that there's regret in like you're at the end of your career and what do you regret that you didn't accomplish. But I think it would be, if I'm being honest, it would probably be so I have a long-term plan for Some Strange Disturbances, and it has not always been abundantly clear to me that it was a long-term plan. But the stories will go up into the 1930s, and part of that involves like watching one of the characters age, and like in the 30s, Duke University started a parapsychology department.
Hmm.
And so the very last book takes place in 1930s America at Duke University. And there will be a haunting that is investigated. And that is the last story of that. So that would be maybe one of my answers.
Ooh.
I've got a couple of other things that I'm working on. There's like a horror sci-fi story that I'm writing right now that is a deep it's a deeply emotional story for me, so that one's taking me a little bit longer to write. I'm kind of mining some inner territory for that one. And Cam, who has one of the short stories in Some Strange Disturbances, A Cold Winter's Eve, Cameron White, he's gonna be drawing that one. So I'm super excited to get that finished because Cam is an artist on the rise, and you all are in for a huge treat. And I'm thrilled to be able to work on that with him. And then like if I had like my wish list, I one of my favorite comic of all time is Doom Patrol. And that one's from DC. And what they have done, it's one of the only books where they managed to incorporate every previous writer's work on it. Sometimes they just jettison everything and keep moving. But each time they've had a new team come on, like the team is taking a different direction. And I think that's really cool that rather than just like tearing everything down, it gets incorporated. And as a dream project, and I'm going to keep putting this out into the universe, that is a book I would love to work on.
Okay. Okay. Well, we better
And
get
it has
started.
some,
I'm just kidding.
and
No.
it has some horror elements too.
Okay. I like that. I like when horror and sci-fi get mixed together. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a sci-fi nerd. Like I like science fiction. Well, I just like science period. I love science.
Yeah.
And then just whole like aliens and Star Trek. I don't like Star Wars. I like Star Trek. Sorry, not sorry.
Yep. No, I totally hear you. And I can tell you, like, a lot of it is, I have insomnia. So a lot of that book involves my research into insomnia and the types of treatments that are there for it. So it is 100% grounded in science and research. My day job now is as a video game researcher, and I taught research for many years. So research is something that always goes into every project that I'm doing, but especially that one, it's all grounded in real world stuff.
That's really, I love that so much.
Yep, yep.
It makes me more interested in stuff, even if it's like, based on a true story. It makes me
Yeah,
more interested because there are real elements to it.
yeah. And same with Some Strange Disturbances. Like, I've got
Mhm.
this section at the end of the book where I go into all the historical elements that I pulled from to build my story around. So all of my work tends to have that nugget of reality, just because I have to have that grounding, I guess, for myself. It has to feel like there's some real world element to it.
I gotcha. Okay. Going back a little, when you were talking about the Duke University doing the psychiatric
Mhm,
program,
mhm.
um, have you ever heard of, I want to say it's Tennessee, where they have, what is it called? The Body Farm?
No,
They
tell
have
me.
oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. When you said that, that clicked in my head because I just talked about this not that long ago. But they have a couple of acres attached to the university, and basically, if you want to donate your body to the school when you die, okay, they'll take your body, right? And like it's like wooded acreage and shit.
Do
They
they put
will
you in like
put
the mushroom suit?
in the mushroom suit. What's a mushroom
It
suit?
it basically like turns your body into a giant mushroom.
No, but
Okay.
I'm gonna look that up though. What they do, they'll take your body and they put you in different um elements outside. Like
Oh.
they'll bury you, or they put you under a rock, or they put you against a tree, or they put you under, foliage or whatever. And they study the decomposition of where you were put. And, like some places are more moist, some are more dry, more light. And they study that out there. And it's called the body farm. Isn't
I
that
am
nuts?
I am looking this up as soon as we're done talking.
Right? Like, oh, that would be an awesome, like, haunted little deal or some crap. I don't know. Like,
I do not want to be on that hayride.
no, I'm good. I was like, if my kids go to college, I ain't going to parent teacher night. You can do that. I'm good.
Oh my gosh.
No,
So
thank you. But
scary.
I'm sorry, that just reminded me of
No,
that.
that's
I thought I had to share
amazing.
that.
Yeah, see, to me, that's so interesting because that again is this place, kind of like what I was talking about with Michael's work, where he's kind of, you know, the medical industrial complex weighs a lot in his personal work, and I just think that's fascinating that things that we are sort of having this reaction to, which are pretty normal, um, in the sense of like it's sort of environmental stewardship, right? Um, to think about death in that way, but we make it horrific because it's not something that we're used to experiencing. So a lot of the Victorian practices are like that too, where they would, leave bodies on display in the house. And
Oh,
they would make like wax dolls out of like that looked like the person that had died and would have hair of the dead person sewn into it. So I mean, and I'm making that face again, that ugh, but like
ugh.
these are all like normal practices, and so in that way, it's just fascinating, like how science and horror often intersect because we think of life as one way, and really like it's very healthy to think about like what, because we're not going to be here forever.
No.
And we have to acknowledge that. I think it, and that can be scary for people, and so we get horror and fear out of that, but it, you know, it's actually very, cultural practices are interesting. We
They
get into,
are.
yeah, we get into it a little bit, in some strange disturbances as well, because like the tradition of telling scary stories at Christmas, like that is odd to people. Like, why would people do that? And it's a rather universal experience. I was just reading today, like in Japan, during the hot months of August, that's when they tend to run haunted houses, because there's a cultural belief that the spirits of ancestors come back to visit in August, and it's also like a time to tell ghost stories. So it's, you know, it's super interesting the way that these cultural practices that seem horrific or have horror elements kind of come back into our daily practice.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. And it is, to us it is bizarre because that's, like you said, that's not our normal social thing that we do. It's not our cultural thing to do here. And oh my
Oh,
gosh, actually I got some comments. Actually I've got a lot of
sure.
comments. But I've been into this conversation. I'm enjoying it very much. Let's see. Hey Richard, thanks for joining Nico. Hey Chris McKay. Hey Sparkle. She also says, she says, I've always been down to
Oh,
be mummified or embalmed. Like a, oh, boom. Get a
can I
tomb.
tell you, Sparkle, you'll appreciate this. I've got an upcoming story in the Some Strange Disturbances universe. One of the social practices was that rich people would go to Egypt and buy mummies. They would literally rob crypts,
Mhm.
um, of mummies and bring them back to England and have mummy unwrapping parties.
Oh,
And
that reminds me of Tales from the Dark Side. Oh, sorry.
so some rich folks are going to unwrap a mummy, and it's not going to go well for them. So keep your eyes peeled. That one's coming
Was that pun intended? But keep your eyes peeled. Oh my gosh. Oh, do you have do you have anything else that you would like us to know about some strange disturbances?
Gosh, well, I can tell you that it is a book that I'm very, very proud of. I'm proud of all of the work, but I think that, as you get older and wiser, you kind of feel like your skills continue to build. And I think that all of the early work is really good, but I think that in the Some Strange Disturbances world, it's just kind of amped up a level. So I'm incredibly proud of it. um, I think, the core cast will expand a little bit. Right now we have the three main characters. They'll always be the center of the book because it really is about their interactions and, their lovers and siblings and co-workers will kind of get pulled into this story. The Purge mummy version. That is very true. The nice thing about that one is it allows us to get into some of those race and culture issues. As I said, Delilah is the African American singer. She's able to. She leaves America obviously because of racism, and goes on a global choral tour with her singing group. And because race was thought of differently then, and she is seen as being of a higher social class as a star, as a performer, she's able to get into these rooms and into like higher society areas. And so for her, there's always this like struggle of, well, I don't really come from this and I don't really see myself as this. So I recognize that I have a privilege to be in this room, but these people are maybe just as racist as everybody back in America. And so the mummy storyline is going to be a real conflict between those three main characters, because Delilah is going to be like, I don't think this mummy killing rich white people is wrong. And so we're going to get into like that kind of interplay of really, really seeing the struggle of those three friends. Like they become a family, and they're going to have to deal with their own internal crap. Um, around like, is this really a monster, or are we the monsters because we unwrapped a mummy? So yeah, in terms of like, that's something that I think is a really true testament to the book, is that, those are the types of friends I have, where they call you out on your BS and you call them out on their BS, and you may be upset with each other for a while, but you always know that you're going to come back together, because to me that's real friendship. It's not about drama or, raking people over the coals or being mean. It's just like, to me, steel sharpens steel. And so I want people who are helping challenge me to be better, and then I'm helping challenge to be better, because to me that is friendship. And so I think that relationship between the three main characters is super authentic, and I think people can find something to really appreciate in that.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait. You said it's coming out next Christmas, or it should be ready by next Christmas?
Yeah, so the first book is out now. Second book will be out. We were thinking it would be out by the end of November. I think we might actually. Typically, we don't miss a deadline. This is the first one that we're experiencing thanks to the pandemic and just some health issues on the creative team side. So I think that the second issue will be out late November, early December, and then the A Cold Winter's Eve, which is the Christmas annual with the guest artists, that one will be out a year from now.
Oh,
So
okay.
2021.
Okay. And like I mentioned to you guys earlier, the link to Craig's website is in the description. So you guys can, wherever it is, I don't know, because this is streaming from multiple social media platforms right now. So it's wherever it puts it. But you guys can click on it after we're done here and go straight to his page and check out all of his work that he's got going on. You guys can check out his bio, his resume. I love your picture, by the way, with the crown.
Oh, thank you. I almost
I thought
wore
it was
it, but I
adorable.
can't fit it on over the headphones.
You said that, I was like, I fucking love this photo. This guy looks cool. It's just one of those photos, like it's what I call an honest photo. I mean, yeah, like you had a crown on and you're being silly, but you can see you honestly through it. I know that sounds weird, but you
No,
can tell that you're a genuinely nice person that's easy to get along with. So
oh, thank you. I feel that way about that photo too, because that truly is like my inner spirit. And I know, I'm a human being like everybody, and I have my bad days. But for me, like that photo is truly indicative of what most days are like for
good.
me. And two, I would just say,
Oh,
like, on the website, for folks who may not be willing to commit, there are a couple of like free short comics that, because when I very first started doing comics, I was doing anthology books. So like, and they're out of print now. So the way that I resolved that is I was like, okay, I'm just going to take my contributions and I'll put them up for free on the website. So they range anywhere from like 3 pages to eight. Maybe there may be an 8-pager in there. And so there are some free comics you can check out. Some of them are horror influenced as well. I've got a silly story that I did when I was teaching. I created a class that was also an alternate reality game, meaning that you layer clues into the actual class that lead you on this like path. And so I did a little supporting comic for it as well, and I had different artists illustrate stories from it. And my coworker Emily Muto did the art on that one. It's very manga inspired. She does her own website. She's amazing. And that story is called Hemo, and he, and then capital M-O, and it's a character that gets a blood transfusion from his dying girlfriend. And then from that point, he can see ghosts, and her ghost follows him around as a result of it. It's a little shorty pager. It's
that
a
is
3-pager.
cool.
But yeah, so that's a fun one too. But just as a heads up, like, check out the free comics, because that's what they're there for, and maybe that will inspire you to dig deeper into the longer, costly or costing books.
You guys heard it. You guys go check it out. You're not gonna be disappointed. I promise. Well, sir, we're actually past our time, but
Oh
that's fine. I
no.
don't care. Do you have any last words for our viewers tonight?
thank you guys for joining us and listening. My hope is that everyone can find something of value in my work. So I hope that if you do check out Some Strange Disturbances, you're scared, you find something that scares you, and then also just that you feel like you're seen. And if you don't think you are, I promise you are. And you may not always feel it, but there are people out here that are working to create stuff for you so that you know that you're valued.
Thank you so much, Craig, for coming on. I really appreciated this, and I really enjoyed that conversation with you. This is so nice.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my god, I'm thrilled to be joining you.
I am so glad that you're here. This is like one of the nicest conversations I've had in a long time.
Well, let's do it
Oh
again.
my god. Absolutely. Yeah. When your next book gets ready to come out, feel free to hit me up. I'd love to have you on again, and we'll talk about it and do this all over again.
That's awesome for sure.
Oh my gosh. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. And what's today? Oh yeah, it's Wednesday. I'll be back Friday. Yeah, Friday sounds good. All right, you creeps. I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a good night.